We are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey guys, welcome back to another installation of Food Month. On this episode of Today We Learn, we will be talking about food allergies.
Woo.
In case you missed it, Today We Learn episodes are the ones where we answer questions based on what we know. We go home, do some research, and we group in part 2 to tell you what we have found.
Okay, so I guess why we came up with this topic is because we were wondering if we can get allergic. We can get allergies from can we develop allergies from anything?
Allergies?
I don't know if I can cut that out, but if I can't,
Just start again, it's fine.
but that's just the nature of the podcast. I'm just
It's
gonna
fine,
leave
it's fine.
all
I think
of
it's
this
quite
in.
funny.
I think it's good, yeah.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, so can we develop allergies for anything or everything?
I really think so. I really think... Have you heard of... What are some most random allergies you've heard of?
I heard of allergy to sunlight.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a movie, right? I feel like I watched a
I don't
trailer.
know.
Was it?
For me, it was in army. There was this other guy in the company that was allergic to sunlight.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Then how? Cannot
solve lor.
Wouldn't he be like PES C or E or something?
He did BNT, and then after that, when he went into unit, and then suddenly he just became a club.
Oh. That kind of sucks.
I don't know about y'all, but there's this story about, I think it is this girl who is allergic to almost all foods except 8 or 15 types of food. So as in not even just type of food, meaning this kind of bread and this kind of rice, not even like all the vegetables she can eat kind of thing. So I'm pretty sure that's a real, not a TV show thing.
It sounds real. It's like sounds like one of those unbelievable stories that people
so she can
publish.
only eat these few food items, and you cannot even mix sauce or whatever if she's so she only can eat these specific food things. So I think you can be allergic to almost anything.
Then how does she get nutrients from anything then? You know?
You have to plan your food.
Yeah. But you know, it's like if you can't take in so many
Supplements,
different types
maybe?
of food.
Supplements, maybe? I don't know. Can she eat supplements?
I don't know.
Well, but for me, like I know one friend last time, she's allergic to grass. So it's like not something you can eat.
Right.
Oh wait, it's like a sunlight thing. She cannot like touch grass, but she can eat vegetables.
Yeah, because it's something that's secreted by grass, right? Specifically.
Yeah, maybe through the skin or something.
Like if y'all watch Parasite, you know the peach fur. Wait, that's Parasite.
Wait, was someone allergic to peach
the
fur?
maid, right? The auntie, the helper auntie.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Remember then he just put the peach fur. You all watch Parasite before me, right?
Yeah, but I just remember how they kill each other and not.
No, he put the peach fur in the pen, and then he just opened the pen cap
And then
when
he,
she
like,
was walking by.
Flick it at her. Yeah.
So I think that's the grass one. Okay, so I guess for this episode, we're more talking about food allergies, right?
Yeah, because it's a food episode.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a food month. It's food month.
Yes, food month. Yay!
Yeah, so the 3 types of food allergies that we are interested in is peanut. So peanut and I guess most other different types of food allergies like seafood that can trigger anaphylaxis. Yeah, that's one category. Another one would be lactose intolerance, and lastly gluten intolerance or sensitivity.
So shall we talk about peanuts first?
Sure.
Are we the most familiar with peanuts?
Yeah.
Because I am. I mean, I'm not even familiar, but that's the only thing I know out of the 3.
Okay.
Because we
I
learned
thought
it
you
in
had a
like,
peanut allergy and I was
no,
like,
I'm
what?
not allergic to it. I'm not even allergic to seafood, but I don't eat seafood except fish.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a preference thing lah.
Yeah.
Haha.
I guess
Wow, smooth.
I guess for peanut, it's like we learned it in secondary school or something like that. It's the G6PD. It's a receptor, right? Oh my gosh, actually I don't even know.
Is it? I don't think so.
I can't remember.
I thought it's a peanut IgG.
Oh, it's like you're lacking the G6PD protein.
Is
They are giving me weird faces and I'm so confused.
I thought G6PD was the Panadol one.
Huh?
Is it? I don't know. I can't remember. Is it the ibuprofen one?
I desperately
very
want to
tempted to
Google
do
it
it.
right now, but
Yeah, me
it goes
also.
against the rules of our... we can't.
Wait,
we
no, I
can't.
really thought it's G6PD. It's like you're lacking something. You're lacking a protein or something.
Yeah, you're lacking an enzyme to break down
yeah.
a certain protein, right? Is it? I don't know.
I think so.
Okay, you can say your theory first, and then I'll say my theory later. See whether it kind of lines up.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically G6PD is something to do with G6PD.
Okay.
And then after that, it will just trigger the anaphylaxis reaction, which is something we commonly hear of nowadays with the COVID vaccines and stuff like that. So it basically triggers like histamine and a lot of histamines being released in your body.
Yeah.
And then that would cause a lot of different things, like your airways might close.
Yeah.
Your different parts of the body might swell.
Yeah.
Because it's just the immune reaction to the whole body.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean for mine, I think it's similar to yours at the end, the histamine part.
Yeah.
But then I thought it was the peanut IgG. So IgG is immunoglobulin G, but it's just some fancy name for a type of antibody, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that your own body produces.
Yeah. So the peanut is the antigen, which the antibody recognizes.
Yeah.
And then it's actually not harmful, but your body recognizes it as harmful.
Yeah.
So then that triggers the mast cell. So mast cells are an immune cell to release histamine.
Yeah.
And then this release of histamine can happen all over your body, which is why you have all the different allergic symptoms. So as Dorothy said, your airways close. But it can also cause things like swelling of the lips and itchiness, and all this has to do with with inflammation, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I always thought it was the IgG, but I could
Maybe
be
we're
wrong.
both right. Maybe we're both right.
But I think that's what most other allergies would be classified under. So
Yeah.
basically, your body is recognizing this food, for example, peanuts or seafood, as something that is toxic, but it's actually not.
Yeah.
So because it recognizes it as a pathogen, then it will attack it and in turn it will produce antibodies against it. So then it will cause an immune reaction to it.
Yeah, when it's
Yeah.
not required. And that's why you get all these symptoms.
Yeah, that was... I don't even know if that made sense.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
I think we hit a few things,
Yeah.
but not deep enough.
Maybe 10-point question, maybe we can get 5 points. Or 3. I'm not very confident.
Just need the keywords actually in our science exams.
Yeah. A lot of
Mast
keywords
cell,
there. I feel like
histamine, antibody.
Okay, what about lactose intolerance?
Okay, so I think this one is an enzyme called lactase, which I think a lot of people have heard of, especially for those people who are more susceptible to the effects of milk. So there's these pills called lactase pills, which you can take before you're about to consume any dairy. And then apparently that gives you less symptoms at the end, so you won't get as much tummy upset and diarrhea and all that. So I'm pretty sure lactose intolerance is caused by a lack of lactase.
Yeah.
Because if you can take lactase pills and feel better, then that's just an artificial production of that enzyme that breaks down milk, right?
Yeah, so it's not really classically an allergy per se, right?
So what is an allergy actually?
I think it has to involve your immune system and your immune system fighting against your body, something like that.
So when we
Right.
talk about lactose intolerance, it's just your digestive system and not an allergy.
Yeah, like your body just can't digest lactose. per se.
Lactose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should call the podcast topic like allergies or intolerance.
Intolerance.
Not just allergies.
Intolerances.
But,
We have to be
but the topic
inclusive.
stems from allergies.
Yeah.
And does lactose come from like that our body produces lactose, right? Or is it some bacteria in the gut?
So it can also be the bacteria that helps produce and break down. So they say if you have a good enough gut microbiome, actually it would be able to help with all these intolerances. Yeah.
Oh, and apparently actually a lot of people are lactose intolerant, but there's a spectrum. So a lot of Asians actually are lactose intolerant, and it will increase with age. Means you will be
That's
more
what
intolerant.
I feel.
It is.
It's super common in Asians actually.
Yeah.
Wait,
because,
why? Why when we grow older?
Because if you think about it, as a baby, right? If you drink,
We have
you are
to drink
supposed to be
milk.
drinking breast milk, right?
Yeah.
And we are not intolerant to lactose at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
Actually, maybe some babies are. Some babies are. I think they get very bad
Yeah,
diarrhea.
then they have to take like soy or some other kind of milk.
Yeah, correct. But in general, I think most people aren't. So as you grow older, because you take less and less milk, so your body, it's like epigenetics. Your body slowly gets used to the fact that your system just doesn't really get that much lactose.
And you don't need to
slowly
produce so much lactase anymore.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, maybe you can train it a bit.
Yeah. So they say if as a child to teenager, if you still constantly have milk in your diet, you actually might not lose lactase production. You might actually be able to continue it. But once you stop producing lactase, you can't really get it back. And that's why intolerance is more or less permanent. Yeah.
So just for the benefit of the listeners, what is epigenetics?
Basically, it's the changing of the expression of some of your genes that is part of your DNA that occurs due to environmental factors. So like not drinking milk. So
not the actual sequence of your DNA that is affecting it.
Yeah. So you're not getting mutated. It's just your genes stop being expressed. Particularly in this case, the lactase gene, the expression is lowered or it completely stops expressing. Yeah. And that's why nomadic tribes or cultures that have a lot of cows or goats where they drink a lot of milk, they don't have people that are lactose intolerant because they have to have it as, their daily intake for nutrition.
Whereas I guess if you think about it, Asian diets don't always contain a lot of milk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
And that's why a lot of Asians are lactose intolerant. On the spectrum.
Okay, so that's lactose intolerance. So would gluten intolerance or sensitivity be similar? And what is celiac?
How do you spell celiac?
So that is depending on British or American. So British would be COELIAC, and then
what's that? Okay, yeah.
For US would be CELIAC, just without the O. So basically, cilia is just these brush-like protrusions that we have on some of our cells. So
like fingers. Oh, sorry, I was doing that.
Yeah, it's like our fingers. It's like finger-like projections. So imagine the cells in your intestines, or in fact, your airway also has it, but it's different types of cells. So in your intestines, these cilia form structures called villi and microvilli. So these small finger-like projections help you absorb food.
Because there's more surface area.
Yeah.
If you think about it in a finger as like when your fingers are spread apart versus when your fingers are closed.
Yeah, there's a lot more surface area for nutrients to enter your system. So celiac disease comes from this term, and it's because your cilia in your intestines get destroyed and they are no longer present to absorb food well. Yeah.
Destroyed by what?
Yes, so that is the gluten allergy and why celiac disease forms.
So we should call it gluten intolerance, right?
Oh yeah, gluten. It's actually gluten intolerance. I'm not sure if it's an allergy. It's more of an autoimmune disorder, I would say.
Oh, but autoimmune disorders are kind of allergies, aren't they?
Yeah. It's your immune system going whack.
Yeah, so autoimmune disorders is when your immune system attacks yourself. So it recognizes your own cells as pathogens or your own things from your own body as pathogens and attacks
as
your
foreign.
own body.
Yeah. So for gluten intolerance, it's because the gluten that is present in wheat, barley, rye, I think.
Yeah.
When they get absorbed by the small intestines, the cells, these finger-like projections, your body recognizes it as a foreign cell or a pathogen, basically a foreign object, because of these proteins that get expressed and then not expressed, like put on its surface. So your immune cells recognize it as foreign, and your immune cells attack your small intestine.
Oh, so actually it sounds allergy-like, doesn't it?
It's allergy autoimmune because your body recognizes it and it attacks your own body.
Wait,
and
I
it
don't
destroys the
understand. So
intestine.
that means like you are saying the gluten, there's proteins in the gluten that bind to your intestines, and
actually for that part I'm not too sure. So I'm not sure if
it becomes foreign. Like,
No. So
I'm lost.
yeah, I'm not too sure how it works, but I think it is. So we can look into it later and see whether or not I'm correct. Yeah, so gluten itself is a protein. So when it's broken down and absorbed into your cells, they somehow package it as a foreign marker and express it on the cell surface. And that's how your immune cells are able to identify and target other cells, right? Because they express these foreign particles, immune cells can recognize it. Yeah. And then it will attack your stomach. And that's why gluten allergies or intolerances are dangerous, because when it attacks the small intestines, it prevents you from getting nutrients. And
so you could be eating a lot, but not you still be malnourished, even though you are eating the right things.
Because you're not actually absorbing the nutrients, you're just letting it pass through your system.
Oh.
Wow, the
Sounds
expert.
Terrible. Sounds a lot worse than lactose intolerance.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think because lactose is just less and less of the enzyme, whereas gluten intolerance is actually so for lactose intolerance, if you drink a small portion of milk, maybe you won't feel as bad. But Zhang was saying, I think we were talking about it, and gluten intolerance is, even if you take in small portions of gluten, it will really affect you. It will already affect you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not as if it's irreversible. If you cut gluten out of your diet, you should be able to regain back your small intestine and the function of your small intestines, but you must really cut it out of your diet completely.
Which is so difficult because gluten is in everything.
It's really in everything.
Like Dorothy said, bread, but also anything that contains flour, so all the pastries, cakes.
Oh, man.
Most noodles.
But they'll be gluten-free, like flour or something, right?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, but you can't just buy things randomly from the shops around.
Yeah, you can't.
Like
you
that.
must really be...
Oh, that's tough.
You must really look at what has gluten and what doesn't. So it's insane.
The journey is difficult.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we talked quite a bit on all the 3 different types. We definitely have more or less some background, I would say, for everything, but it's just the details. Right. So we'll definitely look it up and get back to you soon on peanut and seafood allergies, lactose intolerance, and also gluten intolerance or sensitivity. Bye. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
No, not bye.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of food allergies. So let's just jump into it. Firstly, we'll talk about peanut, seafood, and any other common types of allergies.
Okay, so we were talking about peanut and seafood and how they eventually might lead to anaphylaxis. So anaphylaxis is a severe and potentially life-threatening allergic reaction. And these can be food allergies such as peanut, fish, shellfish, etc. Or it can be non-food like a bee sting or sensitivity to latex or certain medications. So what happens during this kind of allergy is that an antigen, which is a certain structure on the food or whatever you are allergic to, will be recognized by the MHC class II antigen presenting cell. So as the name suggests, the antigen presenting cell will present the antigen to a T cell. So this is an immune cell.
Right.
Yep. And in this case, it will be presented to a type 2 T cell.
Okay.
So a type 2 T helper cell will release certain signals that activate the B cells, so many alphabets, which is another type of immune cells, to release IgE.
Hey everyone, Zhao Yong again. So after this, Dorothy would mention that allergic responses are due to IgE as mentioned in the first part. So in the first part, Amanda actually says that it is due to IgG. So they are both correct in a sense. IgE is responsible for the more classical type of allergic response, which is what we know as anaphylaxis. IgG is more in charge of a delayed immune response that has to do with more inflammatory conditions.
So IgE, as what you've heard from our part 1, is a type of antibody that binds to receptors on another kind of immune cells called mast cells, and this triggers the mast cells to burst open and release a lot of histamine. And histamine is something we're all very familiar with. We should be familiar with already.
Okay.
So in another mechanism, the allergens may directly bind to the receptors of mast cells and cause them to burst open and release histamine, depending on what kind of allergen you have. So histamine, what it does a lot of things. It can cause your blood vessels to dilate, and therefore you get low blood pressure, dizziness. The blood vessels also become more leaky, which in a normal process, in a normal immune reaction, is necessary for white blood cells to leave your blood vessels into your tissues to fight off any foreign objects. But in an allergy, this extra leakiness of your blood vessels would cause teary eyes, runny nose, and swelling, and like your hives, bumps, and all this in your skin.
Yeah.
Right.
It also causes the muscles in the airways to contract, so you might feel breathless or suffocated.
Right.
And histamine also works with the nerves to cause itchiness. Just note that, as compared to a normal person, in a normal person, histamine is always working whenever there's foreign particles that you are exposed to in your body.
Yeah.
But an allergy comes in when your immune system is overreacting to what we call normally harmless.
Right. And usually the immune response is also very targeted, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in allergic responses, because the antigen or the allergen can be anywhere in your body, so it kind of activates just everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is what is also kind of dangerous.
Yeah. In food allergies, like maybe sometimes it can be as long as it touches your mouth. That's why you get like maybe swelling of the lips or this kind of thing. But sometimes it might be, I guess, a little bit slower when it's digested, and then maybe there's certain kind of things that cause the reaction.
Right.
So I think we got most of it correct. Like we got the IgE and the histamine part correct, but I realized the whole G6PD part was wrong. So I went to find out what G6PD is, and I feel like we were so wrong. So anyway, just to clarify, so G6PD is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, and this deficiency in this particular protein is not related to peanut allergies, but fava beans.
Oh, okay.
Now that I read of it, and I'm like, I guess we learned this before. So G6PD is required for our red blood cells to work and protect them from substances in the blood that could harm them. Without sufficient G6PD protein or a malfunctioning G6PD protein, the red blood cell will lyse, and this process is called hemolysis.
Yeah.
So although most individuals are asymptomatic, it can lead to acute hemolytic anemia, which is low blood, that can cause discomfort and dizziness, and in some more severe cases, like in children, it can cause symptoms such as jaundice.
Right.
So that's just something else. Fun fact.
Cool.
And I guess that's like for a lot of the allergens, but let's go into something more specific like lactose. I guess it's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in the first part we were correct in saying that lactose intolerance is not purely an allergy. It's actually more of just a reaction that your body has to milk, or specifically lactose.
Right.
So lactose intolerance actually affects about 75% of the world's population. Yeah,
That's a
because like we said,
Wow.
also it's a spectrum thing.
Right,
So
okay.
it's basically when a person experiences digestive problems when they eat dairy of any form. So from the obvious things like milk, yogurt, and cheese, but even things like butter, chocolates, Milo, certain soups, breads, and cakes may contain milk.
Yeah.
So you may have a reaction to that as well.
Right.
So as the term suggests, it is caused by an inability to digest lactose, which is the main carbohydrate in dairy products. So this is mostly due to insufficient production of the enzyme lactase, which we got correct as well in the first part.
Yeah.
Okay, so a bit of science. Lactose is a disaccharide, meaning it consists of two simple sugars, glucose and galactose. So lactase, the enzyme, is responsible for breaking lactose down into these simple sugars. And in this form, the glucose and galactose, they can be absorbed into the bloodstream and used for energy. However, when lactase is insufficient, lactose moves through our gut undigested, causing digestive symptoms such as bloating, diarrhea, and abdominal cramps. So how do these happen? So diarrhea is actually caused by undigested lactose in the small intestines, which cause water to move into the digestive tract. When the lactose reaches the colon, it is fermented by the bacteria in your gut, forming short chains, fatty acids, and gas, which in turn causes bloating, flatulence or farting, and abdominal cramps.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how you feel the digestive symptoms of lactose if you are intolerant. So there are actually two types of intolerance, so primary and secondary.
Right.
So primary is the most common and it's caused by a decrease in lactase production. So this can happen with age, as we said.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also population studies have estimated that lactose intolerance is highest amongst Asians and Africans at about 60 to 80%. And lowest amongst Europeans who register around 5 to 17% in the population.
That's so unfair.
Wow.
But I think what Zhao Yong said was the diet, right?
Yeah.
be that.
It's because
Right.
milk is a major constituent in more European countries.
Okay, so secondary lactose intolerance is termed that way because it is caused by something else, such as a stomach or celiac disease, and is primarily due to inflammation in the gut wall that can lead to a temporary decline in lactase. So the decrease in lactase is due to something else. That's why it's called secondary.
Right.
So I guess the last thing to note about lactose intolerance is it is not a yes or no kind of condition, which we said previously as well. It is more of a spectrum.
Right.
So the degree of lactose someone can tolerate differs from person to person. So if you feel more lactose intolerant as you age, just remember to get your calcium from other food sources such as broccoli, soybeans, fortified non-dairy milk or tofu, and kale. And like we also mentioned, it is possible to buy lactase enzyme supplements to help you digest lactose. However, the effectiveness of these products vary amongst different individuals. Yeah, so that's the short spiel on lactose intolerance.
Yay. I'm so clear about it now.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking like milk would be related to fat, but it's more of a glucose kind of, it's like a sugar kind of thing.
So I guess besides lactose intolerance, we also talked about gluten intolerance in the first part. So how does that come about?
Okay, so I realized we didn't really talk about what exactly gluten is.
I think we
But
didn't
basically-
know. We're like, what is gluten?
Such a Western thing, I feel.
Firstly, so gluten is just a protein that's present in but may not be limited to wheat, rye, barley, spelt, and kamut,
I have
KAMUT.
no idea what that is.
No idea what that is. I should have Googled it, but I didn't.
Can I Google it now? I'm so curious. Oh, it's a type of wheat.
Oh, it's type of wheat.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's why for people who are gluten intolerant or sensitive, the biggest, contributor is wheat. And because wheat is present in almost everything from bread to like, I don't know, pastries.
Noodles.
And it's just processed in so many places, you can just get exposed to it very easily.
Yeah.
And so for gluten intolerance and sensitivity, it's also kind of a spectrum. So the most severe type of gluten intolerance is in people who have this thing called celiac disease. So what exactly happens is that when you consume gluten, your immune system mounts an attack on your own small intestines. So how this is different from, let's say, like an allergy is that allergy is just your immune system responding. So it's
Overdrive.
causing inflammation. Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas for an autoimmune response, it's when your immune system attacks your body. So that's the very specific difference here
Okay.
between allergies and autoimmune diseases. And so celiac disease is an autoimmune disease because your immune system attacks your small intestines, causing, like what we said in the first part, causing your small intestine to lose its finger-like projections, and then this causes nutrient malabsorption.
Right.
And yeah. And actually, celiac disease has a reported prevalence of about 0.5 to 1% of the population, general population.
Wow.
And in Asia, it's about 0.5%. So actually, it's
a lot.
quite a significant number
That's
of
like
people
1 in
actually
200
have.
people.
Yeah, and it's only, in a sense, why more people are realizing it exists is also because of like more sensitive tests that are available nowadays, whereas in the past maybe people didn't really know that they were gluten intolerant and they just continued eating
Yeah.
as per
Right.
normal.
True.
Yeah, so there is an increase in prevalence because of awareness and also increased testing, but it has been around since forever. Yeah. So I think I'll just lay out a bit of the symptoms of gluten intolerance and gluten sensitivity. So I'll get into sensitivity later, but the symptoms of celiac disease is that it's very similar to a lot of conditions that has to do with the bowels. So like abdominal bloating and gas, which sounds like lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah, nausea and vomiting, which also sounds like lactose intolerance. Stomach pains, chronic diarrhea, constipation, pale or foul smelling stool, malnutrition also, so that causes fatigue, anemia, depression and anxiety, and headaches. So depression and anxiety because of lack of resources to your brain, and then your brain doesn't really function that optimally. And then lastly, the immune-related symptoms or inflammation-related symptoms include osteoporosis, joint pain, infertility, or frequent miscarriages, and also missed menstrual periods. So all these are due to dysregulation of your body's hormonal cycles because of increased inflammation. Yeah.
Wow.
So actually it can affect quite a big part of your life.
Sounds serious.
Celiac disease, like the most severe celiac disease, actually is quite bad then if you really experience all these things.
And long term, if you have celiac disease long term without intervention, it can lead to a lot of other serious problems and a lot of other serious autoimmune disorders, and it can also even lead to intestinal cancer or colorectal cancer. Yeah. So then there's also non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So this is on the lighter side of the spectrum. So interestingly enough, there's no way to actually tell whether or not you have non-celiac gluten sensitivity. The only possible way to diagnose is to see whether or not you have the symptoms after you eat things that contain gluten. So some of the symptoms include mental fatigue. So it's like, again, because of malnutrition.
But the symptom is so general. You know?
Yeah, it's very general.
It's so overlapping with the celiac disease.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about non-celiac gluten sensitivity is you might have the symptoms, but they cannot detect it from typical methods of trying to diagnose a celiac disease.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the symptoms include fatigue, mental fatigue, again, gas, bloating, abdominal pain, and also headaches. So yeah, it's just in a sense, milder symptoms
it's not
compared
that bad,
to celiac
right?
disease. Yeah, you probably won't develop,
The long-term effects.
more severe, chronic diseases, but you definitely get a lot of discomfort and
definitely.
Unpleasant symptoms when you eat gluten. Yeah, so sadly, as of now, there isn't really any treatment for gluten intolerance and gluten sensitivity. All you can do is
Don't
just
eat
avoid.
it.
And it's very sad because it's really in everything. And
It's in soy
even
sauce.
a small amount would cause like a very big reaction. And
I see.
it's sad.
Wow.
I guess I
Such a
don't
sad
have it.
note.
I'm thankful for that.
So the thing about gluten sensitivity and gluten intolerance is also it can develop at any stage in your life. So you can be gluten tolerant for your whole life, but some really stressful event might just trigger it to happen. Yeah, it's random. It's sad.
Man, okay, I shouldn't have said it too fast.
Yeah. But I feel like awareness for it, at least in Asiatic
Asian.
countries, so like what Dorothy said before, is a Western disease because like, they seem to make a big deal of it in the Western countries, but like in Asia, it's still not really that big a topic. And so
I feel like
think,
a lot of people may have it, but they just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the risk factors is definitely genetics. So if someone in your family has it, there's an increased risk of you also actually having some type of sensitivity to gluten. Yeah. So that's all for the different types of food intolerances that someone might have or can have. Hopefully y'all learn something from all of this. Or if y'all have another specific type of food, I don't know, intolerance, sensitivity, allergy that you feel that we can talk about, do let us know as well.
Yep.
And as usual, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. A like and a comment would really help us a lot.
You can also follow our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. So you should also check out the episode description where we'll post helpful links for everything that we've talked about. And if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. We would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.